You want to know why most men break? It is not because they are weak. It is because they pretend to be strong for too long. They live on borrowed confidence, the kind that fades when silence arrives. They perform for others. They dress their fear as ambition. They chase applause and call it purpose. But the moment the lights go out, when the world goes quiet and the mirror stares back without blinking, they crumble. Because they never trained for the dark. They only trained for admiration. They were raised to seek validation, not to build resolve. Most men break because they have no weight to carry that is truly theirs. They float through life avoiding pressure, avoiding confrontation, avoiding the confrontation with self. And so they never form the shape of a man, only a shadow of one. I tell you this not to insult, but to wake you. Strength is not loud. It is not muscle, nor shouting, nor domination. It is the quiet resistance you build inside when nobody is watching, when your name is forgotten, when comfort calls you, and you refuse to kneel. Most men break because they train to win battles on the outside without ever mastering the war within. And so, at the first sign of chaos, they fold. At the first sign of rejection, they retreat. At the first sign of discomfort, they escape. Not because they cannot fight, because they never trained their spirit to stand. Let me tell you what they never taught you. Pain is not the enemy. Silence is not to be feared. And solitude is not weakness. It is sharpening. Discipline is not about control. It is about liberation. The more you discipline the self, the less the world controls you. But most men refuse this. They want the path without the suffering, the crown without the blood, the victory without the scars. And so, they chase shortcuts and end up slaves. Slaves to pleasure, slaves to distraction, slaves to the opinion of lesser men. That is why most men break. But you are here, you are listening. And so you must choose. Will you follow the many, or will you stand as one? The man who breaks is not the one who failed. He is the one who lied to himself for too long. He told himself he was ready, but never trained. He told himself he was strong, but never stood still in discomfort. He told himself he was disciplined, but only when eyes were watching. So when pressure came, when life struck with full force, he had nothing to fall back on but illusions. And illusions shatter under weight. Understand this. You do not rise in the moment of impact. You rise in the silent hours no one applauds. When you say no to comfort. When you hold the line when no one's watching. When you choose what is hard over what is easy. What is right over what is liked. That is when the foundation forms. Most men build castles on sand. They put their confidence in their titles, their bodies, their approval from others. But when time washes through, when illness comes, when loss arrives, when betrayal strikes, everything falls. Because it was never rooted in truth. What is truth? Truth is what remains when all else is stripped away. Your discipline, your word, your mind, your code. That is the unbreakable. But most don't want truth. They want comfort disguised as meaning. They want to feel strong, not to be strong. And so they inflate the ego, numb the fear, and run from the stillness that would expose them. And what you run from rules you. You must learn to sit in silence until your demons speak first. You must learn to stand in discipline until every excuse dies in your mouth. You must learn to walk alone until your own footsteps are enough. Because if you cannot command yourself, you will be commanded by the world. Most men break not because they are cursed, but because they never forged themselves for resistance. They never fasted. They never faced rejection without crumbling. They never moved without certainty. They never endured the boring, brutal repetition that builds actual power. So when life delivers the unexpected, they crack. But the warrior trains for that moment. He does not need perfect conditions. He does not need praise. He does not need clarity. He only needs one thing: the ability to move without permission. The man who cannot be alone with his own mind will never master the battlefield, because the battlefield begins here, in the space between thought and action, between impulse and command. Most men are ruled by emotion. They react before they breathe. They speak before they see. They move without mastery. And so, the world owns them. You raise your voice when you're afraid. You quit when you're tired. You scroll when you're anxious. You lie when you're ashamed. These are not random habits. They are symptoms of a man who has never sat with his own mind long enough to break through it. That is the quiet truth no one wants to face. Most men break because they avoid the discomfort of truth and chase the ease of illusion. They would rather be entertained than evolved. They would rather be told they're enough than become enough. They would rather be surrounded than sharpened. The blade is not forged in a crowd. It is shaped in fire, beaten alone, hardened in silence. If you want to be unbreakable, you must stop avoiding the fire. You must walk toward it and welcome what it burns away. Because what remains after the fire is real. Real discipline, real character, real control, no show, no filter, no performance. Just a man who commands himself with precision. That man doesn't need motivation. He doesn't wait to feel like it. He doesn't flinch when storms come. Because storms are not interruptions, they are confirmations. The test doesn't weaken him, it reveals him. He has already endured what most men run from. He has already confronted what most men bury. He has already built what most men fake. That's why he stands when others fold. That's why he moves when others freeze. That's why he leads when others watch. Because he forged himself when no one else would. Most men break because they think pain is punishment. You must unlearn this. Pain is information. Pain is precision. Pain is the teacher that never lies. Most ignore it, mask it, numb it. So when life brings real pain, loss, betrayal, failure, they collapse. They were trained to escape, not to endure. But a warrior sees pain differently. He knows it is part of the path. He knows that comfort is the true enemy. A slow poison that kills ambition, weakens will, softens spirit. If your mind cannot sit still through discomfort, how will you command it in crisis? If your body cannot suffer through training, how will it survive the storm? If your spirit collapses when you are doubted, how will you endure being defeated? Most men never ask these questions, and so they are unprepared. They prepare for praise. You must prepare for war. You must build your habits not around how you feel, but around what you've chosen. You must become the kind of man who still moves when it's cold, who still sharpens when it's quiet, who still stands when it's dark. Because no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to carry you. That burden is yours, and it must become your weapon. The moment you stop avoiding your burdens and start using them, you transform. Most men look at pressure and flinch. You must look at pressure and smirk. Because pressure reveals weakness, and weakness, once seen, can be destroyed. You destroy it not with noise, not with motivation, but with repetition. One decision, one discipline, one promise kept to yourself over and over and over until you are no longer the man who breaks. You are the man who bends reality to his rhythm, not because you are special, but because you have endured what most avoid. This is the way. Most men spend their lives running from the question that would set them free. What remains of me when everything is taken away? Take their success, they panic. Take their body, they despair. Take their comfort, they collapse. Because they never built something deeper. They never forged something beneath it all. But you must go beyond surface victories. Your strength cannot depend on the season. Your clarity cannot require silence. Your discipline cannot wait for conditions. You must build the kind of power that survives the collapse. The kind that leads when there is no path. The kind that walks when there is no applause. The kind that breathes when everything else suffocates. Most men break because they try to carry everything except the one thing that matters, themselves. They carry approval, they carry expectation, they carry guilt, they carry ego. But they neglect the only thing they were born to command: their own mind, their own choices, their own path. So when the fire comes, they scream. When the storm hits, they search for shelter. You must not. You must become the shelter. You must become the fire. You must become the one who cannot be moved, because he has already removed everything false inside. And what remains, what cannot be broken, that is you. Not the version of you others liked, not the version the world tolerated, but the version that rose through fire, through silence, through solitude. The version that stood where others fell, because he knew there is no audience, there is no applause, there is no savior. There is only the mirror, the breath, the sword, and the path. Walk it, even when it hurts, especially when it's hard, unseen, unpraised, unshaken, because most men break. But you were forged to endure. You were built to conquer yourself. And the man who conquers himself can never be broken. Walk the way.